Anybody here a basketball fan? Yay! Well, that's a good thing. We like, especially Mavericks fans, right? Well, before I start reading, I want to tell you a quick little thing about reading for me. When I was your age, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, reading used to be really, really, really hard for me. Sometimes when I'd have to pick up a book and read it, I got scared. Sometimes in order for me to know what was in the book, I'd have to read it 2, 3, 4 times. But do you know what I learned? Did anybody here play basketball at all? And what happens with the more you play, what happens? When you practice, you get better, right? And the more you practice, the better you get. The more you shoot the ball, the easier it is and the more fun it is. And you know what I found out? I found out reading was the same way. The more I read, the more I practiced at my reading, the better I was at reading and the more fun it got. And then all of a sudden, instead of having to read something 2, 3, 4 times, I could just read it twice. And then I could just read it once. And then all of a sudden, it got to be a lot of fun and I got better and better and better at it. And then a lot of other things starting to get real easy. So reading, sometimes you just have to work at it, but the more you do it, the more fun it is. That's why I'm really excited to be here. So if I don't get my reading perfect, you can't laugh at me, okay? The book I'm going to read to you is Mouton's Impossible Dream. It's by Anik, McGrory, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. With a lot of cool pictures. Once there was the sheep who dreamed the impossible. Her name was Mouton, and she lived on a farm in southern France. Every day on her way to the field to graze, she stopped, mesmerized by the curious drawings tacked on the barn walls by the brothers who owned the farm. "Someday I'm going to fly," she whispered. See, here's a picture of her. It's a sheep and she's on the farm. With a rustle and a flop, the canard the duck tumbled down to the ground. "I can teach you to fly," he quacked, untangling his feet. Mouton's eyes glistened. Corkorico, the rooster, scratched nearby. "Flying is silliness," he clucked. "And anyway, sheep are not made to fly." See the rooster? See the sheep? See the little duck? From that day on, Mouton was very busy. During the day, she studied the brothers and their flying machines. And in the evenings, she studied Canard and his wings and his feathers. But when the time came for Mouton's first flight, she just wasn't ready. Still, that night, she dreamed about flying. The next morning, Mouton was startled awake by the sound of the brothers packing for a journey. She watched helplessly as they tucked their precious drawings away in their wagon, along with boxes and baskets, rolls of rope, heaps of linen, and mammoth sheets of paper. They even packed Corkorico. "Where are they taking Corkorico?" quacked Canard. "Where are they taking my drawings?" bleated Mouton. And when the wagon rattled down the road, Canard and Mouton followed close behind, carefully keeping out of sight. Just before sunset, Corkorico fell off the wagon. "Can you take me home now?" he asked, relieved to be rescued. But Mouton had other ideas. Mouton, Canard, Corkorico followed the wagon past villages and through cities. After a very long time, they arrived at a palace that glowed like the sun. There, a flock of people were gathering around the wagon. Mouton could see one of the brothers unpacking the flying machine. Nearby, a little boy shouted, "If people can fly, we can do anything." Mouton pushed to get closer. "That thing will never get off the ground," said an innkeeper. "And surely the air way up in the sky isn't safe to breathe," added a doctor. Mouton brushed past them. At the edge of the crowd, she spotted an empty basket with Canard and Corkorico. She slipped inside to await and watch, unseen. Just as the animals settled in, they heard the people cheer. Corkorico stretched his neck and scrambled for a better look. "It's the king and queen," he squealed, forgetting to hide. The people bowed down to the ground. Looking rather skeptical, the king inquired about the brothers' invention. And as one of the brothers described how their machine would soar to the skies, the queen smiled with delight. "But what are the animals for?" she asked. See the animals in the basket? Everybody looked confused. Then one of the brothers smiled. "They're the test balloon for us," he said. "If the animals can fly, we'll know it's safe." "Flying is not safe," screeched Corkorico as he struggled to escape. But no one heeded his warning. Poor Corkorico. From inside the basket, the animals heard fluttering and flumping, and then everything went still. Mouton waited and listened. Suddenly the basket jumped. Mouton's heart leaped. But only a second later, the basket bumped back to the ground. Canard looked at Mouton. "I'm sorry, Mouton," he said when he saw her face, "but maybe Corkorico was right. Maybe sheep just aren't made to fly." Just then, the basket jumped again. This time, it didn't bump back to the ground and went up, and the crowd gasped. Mouton squeezed her head and peered down at the ground. She was flying. See her up here? Canard was astounded. Without flapping their wings, he, Mouton, and Corkorico were moving across the sky like a cloud. Corkorico fought to get loose, but quickly changed his mind when he saw the world drop from underneath him. See how high up they are? The animals drifted over fields and forests, gliding and hovering and floating, and until at last the machine slowly began settling back to earth. And then, thud, the journey was over. Corkorico crowed the happiest crow of his life. He had flown, but he was alive. "Mouton, did you see? We were soaring." Mouton just gazed up the sky and whispered, "I was flying." Canard smoothed his feathers and looked hard at Corkorico. He thought Corkorico didn't like flying. Mouton, Canard, Corkorico were royally rewarded for their bravery. The queen was so impressed with their flight that she invited them all to live at the palace. There Canard spent his days giving lessons to Corkorico, who found that he actually enjoyed flying and didn't even mind an occasional crash. Mouton became a favorite with the royal family, having fulfilled her greatest desire. She lived the rest of her life with her feet on the ground and her dreams in the clouds. Yay. Did y'all like it? Good story.